Is looking good to sell a product really worth sacrificing someone else's mental health? A business may say yes, but I'd like to think a human would say no. Welcome back, welcome to another video in which I'm discussing some more things on the internet. And in fairness, we haven't done a video like this for a while, which is a TikTok video. So normally when I'm kind of scrolling the world of TikTok and kind of going through that abyss, you know, I'm there like, what awful stuff am I going to see today? And a lot of times I do see some pretty awful stuff. As we know, TikTok is a place of many emotions. It's a place of many adventures. It's certainly a place where you could get lost in the abyss of misinformation, but sometimes actually a place where you can find the watering hole of knowledge. And that's kind of what has occurred today, actually. After hunting for many a moon to find some awful stuff. Don't get me wrong, there is the occasional awful TikTok coming up, but that was actually sent to me by the teamforneverlean mods. Appreciate you. To be honest, a lot of what I've found recently has actually been pretty solid, and we're gonna go through some bits and bobs. Before we do, obviously we must do what needs to be done, and that's 1,100 likes in the first 24 hours. That is a goal, so if we hit that, it'd be bloody splendid. I'm not quite mentally ready to progressively overload yet, Moose. I saw you call me out in the last video. Baby says I hit a plateau. That's where we are. We're at a plateau. Please do consider clicking the red button down below and subscribing to the channel, and maybe even the bell next to it so you get notified when I upload every week, twice a week. And if you have a question you want me to answer at the end of the next video, drop it down below for comment question of the week and I shall do so. But now, TikTok time. These have either been discovered by myself or sent to me, like I said, by the teamforneverlean mods, etc, etc. Also, if you do want to send me TikToks, I'm not really on there very often and I don't post, but I will start posting again eventually, same as my Instagram handle, at Harry_teamforneverlean. So send me some awful things and I can look at them and laugh at them in a video, and we can laugh at them together because we're a team. I think this TikTok is a prime example of social media as a highlight reel, because assuming these pads are being added for photo shoot purposes, there's a high likelihood that's either ended up on a website or on social media, whatever it may be. Things like this, where the individual is maybe getting butt pads, whatever it may be, for a photo shoot, maybe for a clothing brand, etc, etc, I don't think is actually that rare. I feel like it's probably more common than you would like to think. We live in a day and age where beauty standards are rapidly changing, but then a lot of the standards that are being promoted and preached to individuals are standards that aren't realistic because they haven't even been achieved by those promoting them. And this is an example of that. These standards are not realistic. Like, even the model in question, who is marketed to look like this, doesn't actually look like this because she's putting pads down her pants. But then the big thing you could have questioned is, how's that going to make people feel? We're well aware that mental health is a thing. We're well aware that body image issues are well and truly a thing, and that thing has likely enhanced since media grew. When one may gauge in a lot of social comparisons, it's only going to leave you comparing yourself to them and likely feeling pretty crap about yourself in the process. Sure, it probably sells quite well. Sure, it probably looks quite good for the marketing campaign. Is looking good to sell a product really worth sacrificing someone else's mental health? A business may say yes, but I'd like to think a human would say no. Oh, this is actually a really interesting one, because this one speaks about genetics. I'm a big fan of Cayle PT. I love his content on TikTok. He's one of my favorite creators. Someone actually asked me in a comment months ago saying, how important are genetics when it comes to training and all sorts?
This is Larry Wheels at 19 years old, squatting 700 pounds. Larry Wheels is quite literally built different.
99.9% of people never squat 700 pounds in their lifetime, let alone at 19 years old. And if you're aware of who Larry Wheels is, he's probably one of the strongest humans to have ever walked the planet. Genetics do play a big role in your ability to build muscle, your ability to get stronger, your ability to achieve certain things. If you have favourable genetics like Larry, your ceiling is much higher, and you may find it easier and quicker to progress. I can't imagine many people watching this video have a desire to squat 700 pounds. So for what you likely want to achieve, I'm pretty certain that your genetics are more than sufficient to do so. But what I'm going to say is genetics are very important, and when you see the top bodybuilders, the top powerlifters, sometimes even the top fitness models, they have extremely favourable genetics. Which is not to say that you don't, I'm merely just stating that they do. They may have a genetically favourable shape, whatever it may be. And when you go into the realm of like powerlifting, bodybuilding, they may respond really well to resistance training, to, like I said, pack on a lot of muscle very quickly. They may also respond really well, so be hyper responders to PED use, obviously performance enhancing drugs. And they also may be able to tolerate a lot with minimal side effects. The stars have aligned, which has led them to be the Larry Wheels of today. You've got your genetics, work with it, run with it, you can't change them, but you can make the most of them. And I'm sure that's more than enough. So, fitness myths, let's have a gander at this. Carbs make you fat? No, they don't. Carbs do not make you fat. Ultimately, what's going to determine fat gain and fat loss is largely going to be a calorie deficit or surplus. You can target belly fat. No, you cannot spot reduce fat. We know that. You cannot choose where the fat comes off your body. That is largely determined by genetics. I think in this video, he actually says weights are more important than cardio for weight loss. And yeah, I would probably agree with that. If you could only choose one, I would prioritize resistance training over cardio when looking at weight loss. Because like I said, the body is very efficient. Dr. Mike Israel did a podcast on this where he speaks about how efficient the body is when it comes to calorie expenditure. But the more muscle you have, the more calories you will likely burn at rest. So basal metabolic rate. So when it comes to weight loss and fat loss, I would say for most people, not everybody, but for most people, resistance train, calorie deficit, walk more steps than you're probably currently walking. You can break your metabolism. I think that's something that needs to be elaborated on in a future video. I feel like me skipping through a TikTok is not going to do it justice, so we're just going to go from there. Women should train different than men. Ultimately, I think the biggest thing to consider when training is your goals. So train for your goals rather than your gender. Protein shakes are just for building muscle. No, protein shakes are for getting protein in, be that a calorie deficit or calorie surplus. You can turn fat into muscle. No, you cannot. They're different cells entirely. So no, you cannot turn one into another. If you can't pronounce it, don't eat it. I can't pronounce half the words in the English language and I still eat a lot of foods. To be honest, I can barely pronounce creatine. Consume that on a daily basis. Knees can't go over the toes. Yes, I can. There was a big myth ages ago. I know I spoke about this in a previous video, saying how when you squat, knees can't go over the toes. Yes, they can. They really can. When looking at like biomechanics, the additional knee flexion, so more of a bend of the knee, therefore more knee travel likely, is going to result in further lengthening the quads. Not a bad thing at all. If you're trying to squat with your knees behind your toes, I think you're going to end up doing a very questionable looking squat. Stairs for a bigger... Oh yeah, Stairmaster for bigger glutes. Again, there's not enough resistance behind it. There's not a ceiling for progressive overload there sort of thing. And that is coming from a man with hashtag dead glutes, unfortunately. As I am everything you don't want to be, you must listen to my advice and my opinions. Because that's how the internet works. So let's have a look at this one. Why I stopped using blood flow restriction bands. This is going to be interesting. Due to lack of circulation, I damaged veins. Oh, that looks painful. Had to wear compression socks for 4 months. I'm not going to show you the rest of the screen because there are a few graphic images popping up. But ultimately, blood flow restricted training and the potential dangers of it, in all honesty, I don't know. I'm not familiar enough with it to really comment on it. I think I need to do more research before I do so. But regarding what blood flow restriction is, it's essentially restricting the blood flow to an area that you are trying to target. They also call it occlusion training. You wrap a band around here, so where the shoulder meets the bicep tricep, limit blood flow, and then do your curls, typically higher rep, lighter weight, and then that would result in a sick, nasty pump. Maybe it does have a time and a place depending on your goals, but for any goal that I might have, or I would likely never include it. I think when you're looking at hypertrophy, you're actively limiting your ability to progressively overload. It's not going to do you bits in terms of building muscle. Yeah, it looks cool, it looks fancy, you might get quite a cool pump from it and it might feel nice. Is it really going to help you achieve your goals the best possible means? Probably not, to be honest. But again, it really does depend. Ah, yes. JPG, again, probably my favourite creator on the platform currently. I've seen a lot of bits and bobs circulating online surrounding JPG and Paul Carter's issues, we'll say. They did butt heads on a few things. From what I've seen, from what JPG said on his stories and everything, and Paul as well, it seems like they've essentially squashed the beef. Because obviously the big thing was people were concerned that JPG was stealing Paul's content. I think that was a misunderstanding from what I saw. Regardless, at the end of the day, no one's really reinventing the wheel. A lot of times it's we learn from other people and we redistribute information to our respective audiences. The information that I tell you is not information I've discovered myself and created and studied myself. It's information that I've learned from others like JPG, potentially Paul Carter, N1 Education, who we're going to go through in a second, Cayle, Coach Eugene, loads of these names, Dr. Mike Israel, all these bits and bobs, and then I'm kind of redistributing in my own words to other people from my own knowledge, having learnt from them sort of thing. In all honesty, I think JPG is probably one of the best creators on the platform. I think when it comes to optimizing hypertrophy, he really does know his stuff. Even small things like this, he includes small workout footage of how to kind of target muscle groups in a short and effective manner, like this upper back focused workout. He just goes through 4 simple movements that are really effective and solid movements that you can definitely consider trying yourself. Try things, but don't take everything as gospel. Learn about it, gather your own information, do your own research, apply it to yourself before determining whether it really is an amazing workout for you sort of thing. Another great creator to follow, who JPG actually introduced me to, is N1 Education. If you like learning about biomechanics and your goals may be a bit more aligned to things like hypertrophy, yeah, really good creator to follow. Honestly, some really good stuff on here. Big fan. They've only just joined TikToks, but I'm a big fan of them already. It's almost shocking behaviour from TikTok because the majority of what we have seen today has actually been not bad stuff and borderline, I would dare say, potentially useful, maybe beneficial. Which is concerning because when I go to TikTok, I'm not looking for beneficial or useful. I'm looking for something that is horrendously emotionally painful to me to watch. I'd borderline say upsetting and maybe even heartbreaking because TikTok is such a great source of misinformation in many cases. It makes my job harder if I struggle to find misinformation to debunk. But in fact, instead of being able to debunk the misinformation, I'm having to provide you with positive and informative, maybe even beneficial content from the likes of N1 Education, Cayle PT, JPG, some big names in the industry and some big names doing big things on TikTok. But honestly, it really is great to see that TikTok does have some solid people on there and some solid sources of information. But again, it's the online, it is the internet, it is the abyss. Please don't take everything you see online at face value. That even comes from my own content as well. Do your own research, gather your own information, form your own opinion. Because a lot of times, as with my videos, what's being presented to you is merely an opinion, and that's my opinion. You have to agree with it. In fact, you may disagree with it, but that's absolutely fine. I just appreciate you taking the time out of your day to be here and to listen to my opinion, and maybe even to share yours as well, because you know I love hearing your opinions. But that is it. That is the video. Like I said, if you have any awful or maybe even good and interesting TikToks you want to send me for me to look at in a future video, send them across to Harry_TFNL on TikTok, and I shall do so. Again, I'm not on there very often, but I will compile the videos and we can make another episode of this, you know, another TikTok reaction video, because who doesn't love a TikTok reaction video? Before we end the video, we must obviously do what needs to be done. That's comment question of the week. Your thoughts on programming the Larsen press, or even to bother at all. I think the thing is, why? If your goals are hypertrophy, I probably wouldn't bother myself, to be honest. If your goals are more powerlifting focused and maybe in the strength training realm of things to improve your bench press, provided the Larsen press aligns well with your personal bench press weaknesses, it is definitely a consideration, and I have programmed it myself before in the past when I was powerlifting. But if you're going to program it, you need to be able to justify why you're programming it. And if you aren't aware, the Larsen press is essentially a feet up bench press where your feet are out in front of you, so you're lying flat, no feet on the floor, bench pressing. And it's a bit more of a limiting variation of the bench press because obviously it reduces your arch, really tests your stability amongst other things. And yeah, it can be a useful tool provided it aligns with what you need to achieve or maybe even work on the bench press. Like I said at the start of the video, 1100 likes on the video in the first 24 hours is the goal. So if we could reach and hit that, that would be bloody splendid. I would really appreciate it. If you haven't already, please do consider clicking the red button down below and subscribing to the channel, and maybe even the bell next to it so you get notified when I upload every week, twice a week. And if you too have a question you want me to answer at the end of the next video, drop it down below in the comment section for comment question of the week and I shall do so. Thank you for tolerating me. Thank you for tolerating my feature on the next Casper the Friendly Ghost TV show, and thank you for tolerating the video.